Yeah, we were live.
One person is they can relax and the kids can go. But it was just remembering I am calling to order I respectfully ask everyone silence their cell phones as we call to order the city council meeting of Tuesday, January 28th, 2025. We'll call the roll and then we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. So please call the roll.
Mr. Newell?
Here.
Ms. Atron?
Here.
Ms. Weltman?
Here.
Ms. Godek? Here. Mr. Lemay?
Here.
Mr.
Here.
Gentili? Dr. Wong?
Here.
And would you all please rise and join? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And a particular welcome to not only our residents, but to the family and friends of Officer Tom Frazier, who we begin this evening's meeting with. Council, it's our pleasure to introduce you again. You met him 3 years ago, about Officer Tom Frazier, who tonight we're going to swear in as our newest sergeant in the Pepper Pike Police Department. I want to welcome again his family, his mom and dad, and Rachel. And thank you very much. Tom was first hired in 2022. He was a lateral, having worked 3 years with the Cleveland Police Department prior to that. Tom is a veteran serving with the Army National Guard from 2016 through 2023. He recently scored well and received a strong recommendation during our 2025 promotional testing process. He is here today with his fiancee Rachel and his parents Terry and Tammy. We welcome them and everyone else. During his time while Tom has worked in Pepper Pike, whether it's enforcing our traffic laws, responding to various calls from residents, what's impressive is Tom has always been one of our leaders in responding and being active and self-motivated in the way that he handled the calls made out to him. He always conducts himself with professionalism, with compassion to the people he's working with, be it a resident in distress or an offender who he has to deal with from a more official law side. These qualities, along with his strong sense of duty, have served him well in the past, and they're going to continue to serve you well, Tom, as you go forward into the future. We look forward to Tom functioning going forward as one of our shift officers, shift sergeants for the department. And I think we will all find that he is proudly carrying forth the standards, conduct, and professionalism that we all enjoy from our Pepper Pike Police Department. Tom comes highly recommended by our command staff, Chief Dietz and Lieutenant Colbert. And I'm very pleased to this evening swear you in as a sergeant. Out in the hallway, I don't want to not recognize and welcome the many members of our police department who are right now off shift and have taken their personal time to come out and show their support for Tom. And I appreciate it. I know the council appreciates it, that you guys have come out to show that support. I'm sorry that we lack the seating space to bring you inside so that you're not out in a hallway. But welcome, and proud to have our police department members here with us as well. So, Tom, I'm going to swing around, and if you can join me, we'll swear you in.
So easy the second time.
Yeah, it's a little bit easier.
The way that an iPhone works, of course, sometimes it just pops up, whatever picture it seems to want to. And I don't know that I was having a conversation about you or what occurred. About 3 days ago, suddenly you were the feature photograph on my telephone of the moment that I was swearing you in as an officer.
Oh, there you go.
So I feel like
Comes full circle.
it's deja vu all over
Yeah.
again.
Karma, too.
I'm going to hand this so you can easily follow along. Please raise your right hand, sir. I, Thomas Frazier, being first duly sworn,
I, Thomas Frazier, being first duly sworn,
upon my oath say
upon my oath say
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Charter and ordinances of the City of Pepper Pike, Ohio,
and the Charter and ordinances of the City of Pepper Pike,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
honestly, and impartially
honestly, and impartially
discharge my duties
discharge my duties
as a sergeant of the Police Department of Pepper Pike, Ohio,
as a sergeant of the Police Department of the City of Pepper Pike, Ohio,
during my continuance in said office.
during my continuance in said office.
Congratulations,
Thank
sir.
you.
It's your turn.
Waited 3 years for
Rick
this.
gets the big part.
Oh, yeah.
No blood.
It's hard to go through the shirt, jeez.
It's just all those big muscles.
I
he has.
guess so.
You don't have to put it in. You look all right?
Good.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Love you. Yep.
Ice cream cake.
And this copy is for you.
Okay.
Oh, no. That
No,
copy,
no,
this one.
that's got,
This is our
and if
copy.
you can sign this one too.
Okay.
Scribble your name.
This one too?
Yes. Thank you. And you're all done. You may leave the fun.
Good job, you passed
All
it.
right, thank you.
Sergeant Frazier,
Congratulations.
go with your cake.
We're good. Yeah, we're good.
Family, we go.
I'll save you a piece, Joe. Good call, good call.
That was fun as always.
It always is.
Next, we are going to move on to item number 4 of our agenda, which is ordinance 2025-02. This authorizes the mayor.
Wait,
Number
you
3?
have to do the,
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was a police one. I saw the word police and I skipped over it. I apologize. Item number 3 authorizes the chief to purchase a new Honda car for the detective, I believe. Chief, will you take us through that?
Sure, we're gonna replace, the current Ford Explorer that the detective drives with the Honda CRV instead. The Explorer was highly noticeable, so when surveillance was being conducted, it wasn't as useful as it should be for car thefts and burglaries and things, so we're going to, purchase the Honda instead, and then rotate some cars. So the chief's car is gonna be used by the building department, the detective car I'll use, and then he's gonna get the new vehicle. Minimal upfitting, it's just a radio and some small lights.
Okay. And do we have a price on that yet?
$39,031, which is slightly under budget. What
Okay,
we budgeted.
all righty. Does council have any questions?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Newell?
Yes.
Ms. Atruk?
Yes.
Ms. Weltman?
Yes.
Ms. Bodett?
Yes.
Mr. Lemay?
Yes.
Mr. Gentile?
Yes.
Dr. Wong?
And thank you. Thanks,
Are you
Chief.
gonna go have cake?
I better go, yeah.
Yeah.
that's-
Yeah, go ahead. Next, we're going to move on to ordinance 2025-02. This authorizes us to enter into an agreement for the septic conversion program for the Southwest Quadrant. Don, you want to talk about this a little?
Sure. We applied last April, and then we got notice from Regional Sewer District that we did get awarded these funds, and they have a document that they prepared that we now have in our hands that we need to provide them this ordinance so that we can move forward with the project.
Can you remind us of the specific streets we're talking about?
This is primarily South Woodland from Old Brainerd to Lander, and it actually touches Lanark Lane as well. It's about 88 homes. There's a pump station involved. It's a pretty big project. Where's
the pump station?
It'll be near the intersection of Kerrsdale and South Woodland.
It's new.
It's new. Yeah, it'll be a new pump station.
Okay, within our right of way?
Yes.
Okay. Wow.
And we had asked for about $2.5 million, which was more than half of the amount. They gave us about half of the amount. So it's about, I think our estimate was 3.9 million, 3.93 million, and they're giving us 2 million towards the project. So just slightly over half of the overall cost.
And
Okay.
is there a number on this project? 2A, 3A? Is this
We're calling it Southwest Quadrant.
Southwest Quadrant?
Yes.
Okay, that's the name, that's the
Yes.
nomenclature?
Yep.
Okay. And with that, when that takes a big chunk out of non-sewered homes in that area, right?
It does, and it also provides the sort of the trunk for some other side streets that tie into that too.
And the pump station will go from where it will pump into what line?
It pumps into an existing sanitary sewer,
That's
and
what I
there's a
thought.
couple of different options. So part of our design process is determining the best location to take the flow,
Okay.
sizing it, and, it affects other parts of the system. So
Is it a smaller one like the one at
Pepper Creek.
Pepper Creek, right?
Yes, yes.
Similar to that in size and. okay.
Right.
Don, what's the estimated assessment for the residents if it's 88 homes and we're getting 2 million and it's a 2 million project?
It's,
4 million project.
I haven't calculated the assessment per home, but part of this grant is the connection
$5,000.
assistance, the $5,000
Right.
portion of it. The number that we budgeted is a pretty all-inclusive number, and there's some contingency in there too as well. So I think it's similar to what the assessments are for Shaker 2A,
And that was around 20?
just shy of 20. Yeah.
Any other questions from council? So what is your pleasure? Can we pass it tonight? We'll suspend and do that, or?
I'm happy to go forward with this tonight.
Okay,
This is, we've signed 3 of these in the last
yes,
4 years, I think, right?
Yes.
So, yeah.
all right. So
I'd
do
move
we-
to suspend then.
you made a motion?
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second?
Okay,
This is for suspend.
to suspend.
I have a quick question. The residents are aware of this going on? Yeah, right.
Of that we're voting on this
I
tonight?
don't know, just that the
No, I don't
project
think
was
they're
in
aware.
kind of talks, just so that they can,
We haven't had our neighborhood talk yet about the
Okay.
assessments. No, we have not, because Don's supposed to engineer it
right?
so that we have the idea of what the conversation is.
But they know they shouldn't be replacing a septic system right now. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we work with the Board of Health on that, and they know what any project that we have on our radar. So
But if they sent notices to the residents, like, don't replace your septic system.
I just don't want
They- you-
anybody to
you-
be
you-
surprised.
You can't do it without the Board of Health.
Right,
So,
okay.
so if somebody were to go rogue and replace theirs without pulling any permits, I guess.
But, so there's a flagging
can't-
system, there's a
Yes,
flagging system in Board
yes.
of Health that will catch that.
Yes, you just can't do it without their inspection.
Okay.
And do we have an approximate timeline about when this would happen?
This is, assuming this passes tonight, then
Yeah.
we would need to pass a resolution of necessity to get us started on the design process. It's probably about a year of design and then construction, late 27 or 28.
And this is the reason why the walkway on South Woodland in
Yeah.
that portion is being delayed.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
just to
Yep.
put that out there again.
Construction, so can you explain the lag between the year of design and the construction?
Oh, I'm sorry. I get my calendar
Oh,
mixed.
no.
Yeah, 25 is design
Yeah.
essentially.
And then
If-
construction
if-
next
Yeah,
year?
probably late
Yeah,
26 and then
okay.
27.
Okay.
Right. Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mr. Newell,
Yes.
Ms. Atruk,
Yes.
Ms. Weltman,
Yes.
Ms. Godin,
Yes.
Mr. Lemay,
Yes,
Mr. Gentile.
Yes.
Dr. Wong.
Yes.
And next, a motion for the adoption of ordinance 2502.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Newell.
Yes.
Ms. Atruk.
Yes.
Ms. Weltman.
Yes.
Ms. Godin,
Yes.
Mr. Lemay.
yes.
Mr. Gentile.
Yes.
Dr. Wong.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, council. We will move on to ordinance 2503, which I'll let Joe lead us on. This relates to our general schedule of the bandwidth in which we can offer salary to our employees. This is not an authorization to pay any particular salary. It's just to establish the bandwidth so that it can account for periodic raises, that sort of thing, that the employees receive. Joe, you want to say more?
Yes, there's, in the new ordinance, one of the factors I looked at is to make the bands at a certain width that we're not coming back every year for the band, for this particular ordinance. Current employees generally get the same identical raise as the rest of the city gets. If it's 2.5, it's 2.5. If it's 2.25 or 3, that's what it is. And some of it is also cleaning up some of the language. In section 2, we were calling it, who knows how many years ago, it was called summer help. So we just have the flexibility that if it's seasonal work, it's really seasonal, it's for seasonal people that generally occur over the summer. But if for some reason we're looking at something in the wintertime for something with snow, we have that ability. Obviously, council is aware of all that stuff because we build it into our appropriations and we discuss with council prior to us doing that. The only time that there'll be an opportunity to put somebody into a slot within these bands would be a new hire. If we're hiring a new fire chief, new police chief, new service director, new finance, then that's a decision point that the administration, the mayor sits down and looks and says, okay, the person will be slotted at this range or at this dollar amount. And obviously council knows it via the budget process.
And Joe wasn't trying to suggest anything about that, John.
Right. And in fire, there was a little cleanup in fire. In talking with the chief, he doesn't even know how many years it goes back. There was a Class A and a Class B. Class B getting paid potentially less because they just got hired and they've been there less than a year. Then they would move up to Class A. the way the part-time works now and that, I mean, when we hire somebody, they're already a full-blown paramedic and they get slotted like everybody else does. And it's also a situation, as we explained during the budget process, it's becoming harder and harder to hire these part-timers.
Joe, just philosophically, when's the last time we did this ordinance?
We did it for one particular person at the end of 23,
But a general revision, was it
not since I've been here.
really?
Yeah.
Okay. And then just as you're building in these ranges, are you thinking this should be ranges that will last for 5 more years? Or
It
how do you-
varies a little bit between person and person.
Yeah,
I don't see us coming back down for any changes until 28. And like I said, historically, and to my knowledge, we have never jumped somebody, and if we have, we've certainly talked to council about that.
and then in terms of percentage, at least, I didn't see it, the percentage increase in the ranges. Does it vary by various I mean, is it 10% over here and 5% because the market for those positions is higher or lower, or are you just kind of doing it across the board?
I didn't look at it in that sense. I looked at it as trying to keep some consistency. Like, for example, fire chief, service director, finance.
Why don't you rotate it?
And police chief.
Yeah.
All had the same range.
Yeah.
So if we're gonna change one, I just changed them all.
Okay.
I struggled a little bit, even though this isn't gonna happen. But when I looked at like police chief and the lieutenant, I mean, technically based on these ranges, even though it wouldn't happen, at least not under this mayor. But technically, I guess the new police chief, if Carl was to leave us, we could slot him at 110 and we could have the lieutenant at 130, which wouldn't happen,
Right.
but it's also hard to mirror those two.
I mean, I'm all for making sure our employees have competitive pay. And
Right.
so I want to keep the ranges where we attract great people and keep them. I'm just curious whether different positions have different competitive dynamics that we might have to flex more for one and than another. Do you have any sense of that? Some are harder to hire than others.
Yeah, and then looking also at positions, it's hard to try to get a one-on-one on various cities.
Yeah.
Because we're a much smaller unit.
Yeah.
So there's several hats that are worn by the same person.
Mhm.
Whereas in other cities, they have 2 people that are actually doing that job,
Right.
the 2 jobs.
Right.
But it's a bigger city and it maybe warrants that. So
But we haven't done, again, to maintain that competitive, we haven't, maybe 10 years ago, we did some kind of salary comparison among comparable cities to make sure we were slotted at the right level. You know, I want to be above median for our
right.
department heads. Do we have,
Other cities have done those studies
Yeah.
and we've taken looks at those.
yeah,
We have, for this process right now, we have looked at other cities.
do you have a chart or something? Just, have you put those together in a place that, I'd love to see it.
I would love to see that too. I was going to ask the same question. I think that's a great,
Yeah, I mean, I
Great
can send
piece of
something
data.
out.
It'd be just, I mean, there's comparable cities and there's not, I mean, we're not going to compare ourselves to
Yeah.
Beechwood, obviously. But there's Chagrin Falls and Highland Heights and I don't know, there's 4 or 5 cities. When we last did this, we picked a similar size, similar population.
Yeah, we've tried to be realistic in the cities that
Yeah,
we're
right.
making comparisons.
Right. And Moreland Hills would be a comparison, but other cities would not be. It'd be very curious to me to see.
You know, and a lot of it, like I said, there's no true benchmark. I mean, I've looked at villages and on some villages, they're extremely high.
Yeah.
I've looked at other villages and they're extremely low.
Yeah. I think, my recollection, we did this before, we picked 5 or 6 cities that are similar size population, east side of Cleveland, I think they all were, you know, like Moreland or Chagrin Falls. And
Yeah.
had that data. And we could, where we slot it in to make sure we have a level that's,
Yeah, and they're not
Very-
necessarily the actual comparison cities we ought to be looking at.
There's no perfect comparison.
And
We
the
all know
compar-
that,
the
right?
compar- I was gonna say, the comparisons don't have to be perfect. I think
Yeah.
we can understand those.
Yeah,
those
the range, the
nuances and
ranges,
differences.
but, and we'll get that for council. We'll put together the work that we did and get it out to you guys. It bounces around. I don't know how to describe it. The number, it's what Joe was saying. Sometimes there's a surprise. Orange just hired a brand new police chief, I believe at 140, which is significantly higher than where we are right now. That's a first-year guy. I'm not saying that we're, suddenly driving all our ranges up to try to meet, these off cases.
Sure.
So
We know
we're
that.
trying to find the bandwidth where we can comfortably operate within, where the employees are satisfied to stay here and continue to provide us their
Right.
services within that bandwidth.
Right.
So,
Because you also don't want to be caught flat-footed and lose people because you haven't been paying attention to what those salary ranges are. I think it's just great data. I think it's really an
Yeah.
important point.
no, we agree with you, Councilwoman, and we try to stay in that and we'll share it with you.
And related to that, when we get that data, I'd love to have a discussion with you about how you're thinking about this in terms of the departments and people. I think council, when we had a prior discussion, was very supportive of making sure we stay competitive. It's critical. And I think, as we talked about, in some departments, it's harder and harder to hire top flight people. And that may reflect what Orange did because they just couldn't,
Well, they hired from within, so I don't know.
they hired from within. Okay, all right. Interesting.
So I had asked for a red line and Sheila said one didn't exist, but I think somebody could be able to create one. So we could just see the difference between the 2023,
It would be up to him.
the
Sheila,
2020.
you did send out the last ordinance.
I did, but
Right.
there's no red line.
There's no red line document.
But one can be created, correct?
Do I have the Word version of the prior one? I don't know.
I can send you the word.
Because what we provided was the last ordinance and you can see how the numbers change.
Yeah, it's just easier with a red line. But you just could compare two documents
If I
in,
have the two
in
documents.
Word.
If I have the two documents, yes. I sent over the draft for tonight based on a handwritten thing that I got.
And Sheila sent over the last ordinance that we did, I think, December of 23.
I think your office can
Yeah.
recreate a
Yeah.
red line of it.
We can do
That
that.
would be helpful, yeah. Thanks.
Can I ask just one question?
Yes.
On section 3 of the ordinance, everybody has like a range of salary except for the administrative assistant to the mayor, which is per hour. But I thought is that just a part-time gig? And sometimes other people fill that role, or why
That
is
would
that?
be, we haven't had that position.
Oh,
No,
okay.
Becky is
No, she's not.
she's not the mayor's executive assistant.
She is the finance and administration supervisor.
I thought she was both.
No, the other one was
It was Barb.
in old ordinances under the hour, a part-time person.
When I first came
Is that
aboard,
what you're
there was a part-time person, Barb,
But
when I first
is it-
got here.
But
That
do
would
we
be
need
her.
that then?
So, but she's also your assistant. When I get emails, it says she's your
Well,
administrative.
for salary purposes, she's in
Okay.
that slot.
Got it.
I think sometimes you keep those slots just in case you want to fill it at some time.
Right.
Not that it's populated at this moment, but it's there as a just in case.
Right.
So I'm not offended by having it there, even though we don't have anybody in the slot.
It's an arrow in your quiver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you
If you need it, you got
need
it.
to hire that person, there it is. You've got the range.
Well, just like in the old document, we had a part-time mechanic for the service department.
Mhm.
And in talking with Jim, I mean, we're never gonna hire a part-time mechanic, ever. So we just took that whole position out of there.
Okay. All right, so we'll get that, this is on for first reading tonight, and we'll, get you the information that we talked about. Good conversation. Next, we're going to move on to ordinance 2025-04. This deals with Mr. Shi and Chagrin Valley Engineering Joe, you want to take us as to what's occurring here?
Yeah, Mayor, I will. Every 2 years, basically, we do this type of ordinance. We budget for these changes for 2025, and they're appropriated. And in talking with Don, he explained, like in section 4, the changes for his different personnel that he has at the firm. But basically for Don, it amounts to a 6% increase, 5.95, which is equivalent to the last 2 years of what city employees ended up getting of 3s and 3s. And it takes them from, I think, 42.5 up to 44.5.
The rate increases for your staff members?
Yeah.
Is that, did that last happen 2 years ago as well?
That also happened 2 years ago.
Okay, so
So
those
we've been
are,
at the same rate for 2 years.
okay. They look roughly inflationary type.
Yeah, we've, I think we did an average and they were about right around 6%.
And from a rate standpoint, is that a standard rate you charge all cities, or is it Pepper Pike, or is it vary?
We have, almost all cities have the identical rates now. We've kind of gone to that. We still have a few cities that do percentage contract, which Pepper Pike does not. Pepper Pike's everything is hourly. Some towns still like having percentage contracts depending on where they're getting projects funded and that type of thing. So those are structured a little different. And because of that, we do have a slightly different rate structure for some of those. But I would say of the 20 towns we represent, probably 17 of them are the same.
Hourly rates?
Yes.
Okay. Could we, any other questions or conversation? Tony?
I think it's a question probably for Don. But I didn't see in the duties that I'd like to see now with my new role as the chair of the infrastructure committee, an annual Pepper Pike pavement maintenance inventory of streets and roads, showing the current condition of each roadway after the winter season has ended. And the second thing is some maps for Pepper Pike pavement conditions by street. These are some reports that we used to have in the past. Pavement condition by street, enclosed drainage ditch areas, septic system, sanitary by street. Are those included in what you?
In the retainer?
Yeah.
No, not really. I mean, any kind of preparation of maps is somebody drawing up the maps. We do have a lot of information that we've prepared over the years, and we do have like a giant spreadsheet that we maintain.
So it wouldn't be included in the lettered items in section 1.
Right.
Okay.
Well, the street thing, you have a perpetual database on that.
Yeah, we
right?
just have a spreadsheet that we maintain.
Okay, that
Right.
says conditions of the street, because I
Yeah.
see that.
And we do rate them every year. We drive around. I drive around with Jim and
Okay.
Joe, and we get feedback. And
So that's available if we wanted it,
Yeah.
just anytime. Yeah, okay.
Could those maps and things be included in the retainer?
well, it's extra work, so and it's not being done by me. So I'm paying my employees to prepare some stuff. So I could, but then I'd probably need a higher number for the retainer. Typically, I think the other thing that we've talked about, and I don't know if services talked about it too much, but we talked about doing some GIS stuff to give better graphics and better information out there. That's another area that we can do some of those tasks if we want more graphics or more stuff. The spreadsheet we have, that's relatively easy, and we do have a database of that map and things like that we've prepared over the years. But even that, generating that map, the zoning map and things like that, we typically do get paid to do that work.
Okay. Well, I think that those maps are very useful. They make seeing what's going on in the city infrastructure wise very helpful for us on council who are not engineers, which is all of us, I think. So I'd like to propose somehow that we have those maps as a regular part of what we got.
Okay, well, we can talk about that's like separate from the conversation we're having right
I was
now.
gonna suggest that, you see what he's got, and then I would agree that every 5 years or so, we should have maybe some of those type maps updated or 3 years,
Yeah.
some
Right,
period.
and I think we do them on a 5-year rolling basis, basically.
And I really love
I
the
haven't seen some since '07. So, I mean,
No, I know we've brought them to infrastructure committee meetings since then. I know we have.
well, anyway, we'll cover that in.
Yeah, but let's get back to our topic right now of ordinance.
Well, I wanted to know whether
2025.
these were included, that it was part of it. If they're not included,
Okay,
then they'd be.
they're not included.
Okay.
I think that was clear.
I have a
Dr.
question.
Wong.
So I'm just looking at the budget for this past year, 2024, 2023. So is this hourly rate for section 4 for all the other people in the staff? Is that what goes into the other operations line on the budget form? Like under engineer, if you look at the December budget that you just sent out, Joe, on page 3, it says engineer, personal service, year-to-date actual is the $49,327.11. I'm assuming that's the salary for Don Sheehy, maybe? And then the other operations was $59,490. What's that? Almost $60,000. Is that
Well, that's
That-
general fund type activity. A lot of that is site plan review, et cetera, of which we generally get money that comes from an individual or a builder to do that work. A lot of Don's other people, a lot of that ends up rolling into the capital projects fund, of which some of that is covered by the vendor doing the work. Some of it is not.
so?
Like when
Um,
Don designs a sewer project and he has several people in his office
Right.
working, he's paying them a salary to do the work.
Right.
Those hours end up coming in as a bill to the city and get charged to the capital projects fund because they're part of that capital project, the sewer line on Shaker.
Okay.
But the good example is Sterling Lakes. When the properties were being built and there were site plans and Don would have to come out and review the site plans for topography, et cetera, et cetera. That comes in as a deposit from the builder who's building that. And that revenue ends up in the general fund and the expenditures end up coming out of that line item you were talking about.
Okay. And then, so how do we account for like any kind of conflict of interest for like projects that are being done? Like, you know, we have these projects that we get grants for and the engineer company gets fees for that from the grant, but then the city also pays them for the work that they do too.
Yeah, I'm not
So-
following, you threw me right off at the beginning when you said conflict of interest.
Well, as we do more projects, which are great for the city, the engineering company gains more money from
Right.
that. So then how's
Just
the
like if we
city?
do less projects, the engineer company gets less money.
Right, but how are we handling that conflict of interest?
It's not a conflict of interest. If the city doesn't want to do any projects, Don wouldn't be building any engineering fees that would go to the capital projects fund. But when council approves Shaker sewer line or phase 2A, you guys authorize Don to prepare the plans for that project. Those costs end up in the capital projects fund. So anything of that kind of volume that ends up in the capital projects fund is all approved by city council before Don does the work.
Right, but it's in his, well, anyway.
I think Dr. Wang was just, I mean, and I think everyone does it, but I do understand it's inherently somewhat feels like a conflict because the person who's advising us that we should do a project is also the person who gets paid. And I know that's how it is.
Like a site,
I
you know,
don't think that in any way Don would ever do anything that was, you know, but it is sort of an odd
You know, like site planning.
system.
I
It's a little bit of an odd system, but part of that is driven by the fact that we're so small.
I know. I was about to say it's because we're small. If we were a big city,
We would have
we
a
wouldn't
city
do it.
engineer
It's just that
full-time and it wouldn't make a difference.
I was just saying that she's seeing something that's inherently, not ideal, but we're small, and so I don't know.
This is the way they all do it.
And it's
Every
how
city-
everyone does it.
Right.
But it's not ideal.
The break on it has to be what Joe described. City council ultimately authorizes
Yep.
these contracts. That's how you overcome what you're identifying.
Okay.
But yeah, there is an inherent conflict. Joe, there's one thing I'm not clear on. I know that the money that gets, his staff incurs and that he pays, and we pay the bill to his company. Those go into that other operations line in engineering.
Most of what we pay his staff, et cetera, to do end up in the capital projects line.
Okay, but there is a portion that you mentioned that goes into other operations. We have that budget of $60,000 or whatever it is. Okay. Where does the revenue come in? I can't remember where that revenue comes in.
Under miscellaneous revenues.
Under miscellaneous?
Yeah.
Okay, and how much is that per year? Does that usually cover those other operations or?
A majority of it does. There's very little, like when he does, what's that report, the MSDS will report that you have to do stormwater.
Yeah, we do like
for
an
the
annual, we
EPA.
have an annual report.
We are required to do because we're a city.
No, I understand. There's some
So
things that we
that
do.
isn't reimbursed by anybody.
Understand.
But
When
a
we do like
majority of-
site inspections, a project is underway and once a month we go out and inspect just the erosion protection. So that gets billed to the city, but that money is actually paid through the developer, the builder of that site. So that occurs, there's dozens of construction sites in Pepper Pike today. And we have to spend some time in each one of those sites at least once a month to check them out.
I think my question is more simple than that. And if you don't have the number right now, could you just tell us how much is in that miscellaneous revenue for engineering?
Yeah.
Shoot it out to us or tell us
I
next
can
time.
do that.
Yeah, that's all I'm asking.
Okay.
And go ahead, you finish. Sorry.
So just so that I can kind of clarify, section 3, where it's Don's actual salary from the city, that includes the regular surveys that we have for the MSDS. And what else does that generally include, that base salary versus like the hourly stuff in section 4, just so that we can.
I'm sorry, I don't have the, it's in there, what it says.
It's in the document.
Section, let's see.
Oh, that's in section.
Yeah, section
I'm
2.
sorry. Got it.
Describes it.
Yeah, all of the items A through F are performed under section 2.
Okay.
That is
And
the
then
description of those.
The
of those
other
tasks.
hourly rates are for any kind
Any-
of extra
anything that doesn't-
projects
correct.
that don't fall under that. Okay.
Thank you.
Got it.
Thanks for your question. Thanks for your answer. Anything else, Council?
Just quickly, I just wanted to, keep the first part of what Mr. Gentili said. I thought it was a really good idea. If we can if their committee at least, roads and infrastructure could get that information about road condition and kind of, loosely kind of give us an idea of our 5-year road schedule, where we are. So we have a feeling of if there are any problematic roads, what's coming down the road. I think they'd be a better informed committee, and eventually maybe that information could be shared with us more, all of us. And I think that would be really good. Just have us as a council ready for projects that come up when community members ask us, for example, when is Gates Mills going to be paved? I hear that one a lot. We can really answer that with some actual data behind it. And I know that, we can't necessarily pin it down. Problems come and we have to bump something up or something lasts a bit longer. But I really think that would be great information. So I really appreciate that you said that. And I think I would love to see it after the committee gets it at some point. At least
A little.
We'll do
some form of
we'll-
it.
We'll do a report where that's shared.
Anything else, council? All right, could I suggest a motion to suspend for ordinance 2025-04?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Newell?
Yes.
Ms. Atruk?
Yes.
Ms. Weltman?
Yes.
Ms. Godek?
Yes.
Mr. Lemay?
Yes.
Mr. Gentili?
This is suspend?
It's just
Yes.
suspend.
Dr. Wong?
Yes.
And next, a motion for the adoption of 2504.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion regarding it? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Newell?
Yes.
Ms. Atruk?
Yes.
Ms. Weltman?
Yes.
Ms. Godek?
Yes.
Mr. Lemay?
Yes.
Mr. Gentili?
Yes.
Dr. Wong?
Yes.
Great, thank you, council. Next, we will move on to our seventh item, which is has been placed on this agenda at Mr. Gentili's request for a discussion of town hall meetings regarding the repeal and replacement of the Pepper Pike City Charter.
Well, there was quite a lot of discussion last week.
Yeah, you asked that it be on this agenda.
Pardon me?
I know. You asked for it to be here tonight, right?
I guess.
Oh, okay.
I
I'm
don't-
sorry. I thought you were saying you don't have to talk about it.
No. We had a lot of discussion about town halls last week. And so I went through the calendar and let me, this is, council's decision when the town halls would be held and how many there would be. I'm suggesting 3. And I tried to schedule them, or my suggestion for scheduling them, and I'm open to other thoughts, are to have them near the time of the voting, which would include the absentee voting or the mail-in voting. So by the 6th of April. And then I was told very strongly by some folks that I should definitely avoid spring break as a time for these meetings. So I tried to do that. And so I've come up with the 1st or 2nd of April and the 5th of April. The 1st or 2nd would be a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and the 5th would be a Saturday. And then the other town hall, whatever the council's pleasure is, to have it the week of the 10th. The 11th would be the same day as our council meeting, and the 15th would be the Saturday
Of March.
of March. Yes, yeah, March. So one in mid-March, and then 2 near the time of voting.
I'm totally confused on the
Yeah,
dates.
wait, can you say the date?
You were saying April, and I
No, I'm
just
sorry.
say the dates without the explanation.
All right. The first one, I don't, if we decide to do 2 weekend ones, it would be the 15th, which is the day.
March?
What month?
March?
March. Yeah, everything is before April 6th.
Right, the
So March-
first date you're suggesting is March 6th? Is that what?
No.
March 15th.
April 6th is when we want to have them
This is
done.
early voting.
Oh, April 6th is early voting.
Yes. That's why we want to have them all before that.
Oh, I thought you said that was spring break.
No, spring break is the
It's the
third
week
and
of the
third and
24th.
fourth weeks of March.
So you want one before
I
that?
want one before that, all right? I think that I'm suggesting
So that would be
and-
the week of March 10th.
week of March 10th. And the options are the 11th or 12th, and that we wanted to do it on the weekend, on a Saturday, on the 15th
Of March.
of March. Yeah, everything, nothing is after April 6th, which if it was the 15th, that would be after the 6th.
So that would give us 2, Tony, you're suggesting 2 Saturdays, 1.
I'm not. I'm suggesting if we wanted to have the mid-March, it would be either the 11th or 12th
Okay.
and the 15th, or the
Okay.
15th. I'm suggesting that the April be the 1st or 2nd
Okay.
and the 5th of Tuesday or a Wednesday and a Saturday. But this is just throwing it out there. Whatever, if people think that that was a good way to think about it, fine.
Yeah.
If you think there's a better way to think about it, I'm open to it.
I have a question. Do we know if the Pepper Pike Civic League will be putting on an event as well? Because that would be,
They have reached out to us and I told them that we would be figuring out what our dates are and that we would be in communication with them. So
okay, I wasn't sure if that was an additional opportunity for outreach.
I don't know. I don't know what they were thinking. We got an email earlier this week, I believe.
Okay.
Suggesting that Janet Newman would make that organization available to us.
Okay. I just want to understand what council is intending for these town halls. The law director and I both expressed our concern, I think at the last meeting, that having placed this on a ballot already, so this is now an issue pending on a ballot, that no city resources can be used to advocate pro or con for this initiative. I'm not, other than people reading it, I'm not clear what is going to occur at this. It's very different than what occurred 2 years ago at the sidewalk thing, where it was not this type of ballot initiative. That was basically, what's your opinion, city? And it was this entirely different type of thing to have a town hall about, because it was supposed to be a dialogue going on for that. For this, I'm struggling to understand how council or myself can be at one of these town halls, not basically advocating in the interpretation of what is going on. I just find it very challenging that the Civic League has offered a forum where those restraints would not be present. Makes more sense to me, frankly.
Help me explain it. I'm not clear. So if we have a town hall meeting, it is like one of these meetings, right? It's a function organized by the city. But you're saying that a council person couldn't take a position if asked a question by a resident?
I'll
Well, the concern is that if you were soliciting, I mean, I think the difference between what you're doing now and what you did previously is you solicited the input of the public before council made its decision to put something on the ballot. Now that something's on the ballot, your town hall is likely to be seen as sort of a campaign event.
I don't understand that. I completely don't understand why it's a campaign. If citizens want to come and ask questions,
Yeah.
do you support this and why?
Yeah.
Which what I see the town hall being is informational. Could you explain this clause to me in your point of view? And you may get 8 different answers on that. But I don't see why that is legally problematic.
It's problematic if you are advocating for an event as the city.
We're advocating an event to provide information to our citizens. I can't ever see how that's problematic.
Okay, well, if you were seeking to increase taxes, you could see where the problem would be. As you say, these are the needs for the taxes. And if you were expending resources for that purpose,
But we're not
problematic.
We're just talking. We're not spending resources in the sense that we're putting out flyers or campaign signs. A resident asks a question is, what does that mean? Or are you for or against it? What's the pros and cons? It's not spending resources to answer a question. Do you think differently than that?
If you have an event somewhere that, I agree that if there's no cost to the city for doing it, you can gather and talk about things. I have no problem with that whatsoever. But if it's some sort of event where city resources are being used to advocate for something that's on the ballot, that's a problem.
Well, is city resources responding to a question?
Are you gonna have staff there?
No, I'm just asking, I'm there. The 8 of us are there, the elected officials, and we respond to citizen questions. Is that expending city resources?
Probably not.
Probably not. I need a firm answer on that, Steve. If you think that's a legal violation, there's all kinds of constitutional issues with that position.
I don't think there are constitutional issues with that position. I think individuals have the right to make statements. If the government is getting involved in advocating for a ballot issue, that's where the problem lies.
Well, the government isn't. This would be individual elected officials, the mayor and the seven of us, I'm presuming, just informing the citizens of our views, pro, con, or explaining a position. I can't see how that is expending resources and problematic.
I want to ask.
Well, wait. I need to get an answer here. This is really important. Is it problematic for us to take a position in public at a public meeting?
I think arguments could be made,
Arguments we made in this room about that.
right?
So arguments we made when we voted pro or con for the,
I think the likelihood of the city being held liable for something in that circumstance is low.
I've been advised, I'll share it with council, by someone, that these open houses could likely trigger a Ohio Election Commission complaint. That's all.
so can we discuss, Steve, can we discuss that right here in this meeting?
Discuss what?
The initiative to change the charter. Can I make a comment right now to the public? Is that a problem?
During your comment section, sure. You can say anything.
Okay, so that's not a problem. So why would a town hall with the seven of us making comments like that be any different?
Because it's an organizational meeting to advocate for an election issue.
It's,
And
is-
look, I'm not an expert in the complaints. I have heard about the thing that the mayor is referencing. Complaints could be filed with the state election authorities that require a hearing in
Well, I guess-
Columbus.
I guess-
Melanie, just let me
Oh,
finish
okay,
this.
'cause I
I'm
wanna
very
say this
sensitive to the
too.
point because 12 years ago, 14 years ago, when the tax increase was on the ballot, and the mayor well remembers this, the city put out a flyer that was anything but information.
That was not the city.
No, the city did do one.
I thought that was the council funded that
The city
individually.
did one as well. I still have it.
Yeah, but I don't think the city,
No, the city did do that. They put out a flyer. There was a separate pack that did it as well.
okay.
There were two.
I remember the letter that council signed that, not the city, but I think it was Bruce paid for it, maybe? I don't know who paid for it.
There was one.
That's the letter that I remember.
There is one where the city paid for it.
Okay.
It was city authorized and city paid for it and purported to be informational. It was anything but. It was subtle advocacy and not so subtle. And I was on the other side, as were you, Mr. Mayor, at the time. And that really made me angry that the city was actually writing checks to put out advocacy for an issue that was on the ballot. So I'm sensitive to the issue. I guess where I draw the line, Steve, and what my question is merely talking at one of those meetings, to me, is not spending city resources. It's expressing your views. And I just don't see how that's problematic.
I think if there are no city resources being used, I have less of a concern. Obviously, anybody can file a complaint with an
Sure,
election
anyone can do
commission.
anything,
Right.
but
And I think there's a low risk of liability for mere meeting activities.
which is what we're doing here and now.
Yeah.
Today.
Well, you're using the city's resources of the facility. That would be the concern. If you had the.
Well, when we voted yes or no, we're city using it. Was that
Yeah.
a concern?
No, but that's placing it on the ballot. That's you acting in your council capacity, rather than
I'm-
as an
I'm very
advocate,
concerned.
rather than as an
I
advocate for an
am
issue
concerned.
that's on the
That's why I
ballot.
bring
I'm very
I don't
concerned
wanna
that you're
stumble-
shutting down speech here. That's important for our residents to get information.
I'm not doing anything like that.
That's fine.
You're welcome to advocate for whatever you want to advocate for. The concern that I have is when the council takes, action and expends city resources. That's where I'm drawing the line. The city can't expend city resources. If your hypothetical is you're going somewhere, no city resources are being used, and you're just talking, I can't say that's a problem. That's not a problem.
So let me give you a hypothetical. So let's say we use the Brady Middle School room. And we have these town halls and people are there and they can ask questions.
How are you going to give notice of it?
How are we going to give notice of it? send out a letter saying,
Paid for by whom?
announcing the town halls
Paid for by whom?
paid for by the city.
Okay, that would be the concern that I have, is that you're setting up an advocacy opportunity.
It's an
The
advocacy.
expenditure of city money for advocacy. That's just the concern I have.
If it's purely informational, is that advocacy?
It-
I want to explain to you how this provision works.
I am familiar with how these go. They can turn into campaign rallies really easily, depending on the audience that's there and, you know, what the back and forth is. And I'm just saying, I would draw the line at not expending city resources to address an issue that's on the ballot.
Well, okay, well, speech is not a city resource.
No, but notice, mailed notice, that would be a concern.
Mail notice that says, come to a town hall to discuss this issue on the ballot.
I have a concern with that because it's on the ballot. In Orange Village, they have a newsletter provision in their code. And it very concisely says you cannot use it for anything that's on the ballot or for any official, any official who's campaigning, for obvious reasons. And that is because of the concern that the use of municipal resources to advocate for something is not constitutional. You're using, as you mentioned, for the tax purposes. You can try to cloak it, and maybe you'll be successful. Try to cloak it as just an information session. I think there's some risk with that.
I have a question though. I don't remember the timeline exactly, but the town halls with regard to the recreational trails, I thought we had already decided to put the issue on the ballot, and those took place concurrently.
The town halls were in September, so when would the issue
I
have had
think
to be
you're
on the
right, Tony,
ballot?
but
It was
Before that.
that was my
long before
point.
that on the
We had to
ballot.
file it, I believe, in
That
July.
was my point, that I think that those town halls, though, because of the nature of the issue that was on the ballot, which was non-binding on council, and that it was, to have a dialogue with the residents about the walkway initiative, that it's just a different thing.
Why is it
I
different?
think
than
it's
what we're
really
doing
a
now?
distinction.
Because this is going to be
I think
because this
it
is going to be a binding, this adopts something.
This is really.
That did not adopt anything.
But it's
This
city
adopts
it's
It
something.
city
doesn't matter.
resources.
That's not the relevant.
But it's exactly
feature.
parallel, because it's city resources, quote, advocating or not advocating for an outcome on a vote, even if it's non-binding.
It doesn't-
Steve, you draw a
Totally disagree.
distinction
I
in your
totally
analysis
disagree with
between binding and non-binding ballot issues? And is there anything in the law that says that?
Because because really what you're talking about.
Can I get
is
Steve to answer that
council
question?
member, Okay, advocating.
I'm sorry, repeat the question.
Is there a distinction in the risk you're posing between binding voting issues and non-binding voting issues? And if so, why?
I don't know of a distinction. The argument would be that the non-binding has no legal consequence.
And I'm trying to remember I feel like that was the town halls for the sidewalks were more people getting up and voicing their opinion
Yes.
and not very much council reaction, right?
No, we worked really hard to put together a FAQ. It was, FAQ. It was supposed to be very informational. That was a huge effort on behalf of council to try and put out just clean, factual information. Then the whole idea was for people to be able to come and get factual information. So I have to say, I agree with Jim. I mean, either one is council advocating. So I'm not quite sure. And I also don't like the idea that there's some vague entity out there that's giving us advice that we're not informed of who they are, and getting to see that advice, in some sort of written or digestible form that we can understand it, because it puts that information out there kind of in the, atmosphere that there's some entity of importance out there saying this also. And
But first, I didn't say it was an entity. I never said there was an
Or a
entity.
person or an
I said
attorney.
I had been approached
Okay,
and
an
informed
attorney.
this, and I thought, in all fairness to
Can I
council,
finish?
I ought to, no, let me finish, because you're
You
misdescribing.
interrupted
It
me.
was a person. Now,
Really
please
crazy.
carry on.
It's unbelievable. Okay. All I was saying was that some person, maybe they're, I don't know if they're an attorney, I don't know what area they practice in, I don't know who they represent, I don't know if they're an individual in the community who does research in this area, I don't know who they are dispensing this kind of vague information. I just feel that's really an uncomfortable thing to put out there. That's all I was saying. Maybe it just shouldn't have been said, and we should just rely on our law director or some, legal entity that we're aware of.
But on that timeline, Steve, you raised no issue, as I recall, with having town halls or the city putting out its informational flyer about the sidewalk issue with pros and cons.
I don't recall, but maybe it's because I didn't go to the ones that were after on the ballot. I know I went to ones before council acted, because you had hearings of council before you voted on the issue at Brady, isn't it? Sheila, is that right? And you may have done something else afterwards, but I don't think I went to it. And I think it would have been for the same sort of reason. You don't want to expend city resources for an issue that's on the ballot.
No, but
We never got advice that we shouldn't do that. That was a
Right.
major effort on behalf.
No. But what I'm saying is I went to the meetings that before council took action to put the issue on the ballot.
I
I
understand,
didn't
but
go
that's
to the
not-
ones after that because we acted on the rule that council ought not be expending funds to advocate for an election issue.
Well, I understand maybe you didn't, I certainly wasn't aware that you weren't attending because you thought we were doing something improper. I would have assumed that we would have been informed that you thought we were doing something improper.
If I didn't go and if funds weren't being expended, it wasn't something improper.
So Steve, are you saying we should not have town halls? Is that what you're advising?
Are you saying that you?
No, it just raises a concern that if you have a town hall with an issue that's on a ballot and you expend city resources to publicize the town hall, to give notice of the town hall or whatever, that's where you're getting into a gray area and the risk to the city goes up.
Can you provide us some case law where complaints have
Sure.
been filed in this?
Yes.
That'd be very, very helpful.
Yep.
I'm just
What
trying to
if-
understand why we
what
did it
if-
before. And
If Pepper Pike Civic League organized the town halls and we just attended.
That's
Yeah,
that's a legit action. It's not the city at that point
Okay,
How
so
are they,
if
how are they gonna make notice?
with their own funds.
Okay.
And you would be
And then
willing to mail this out? I mean, it's 30
We've done it all the time.
It's 30 some pages. It's
Yes.
not gonna be a cheap mailing.
Well, and the city will be separately mailing. We will have to mail a complete copy of the charter out.
They will send that.
Under
We
state
will
law.
tell them that.
So there was a line in the ordinance that you passed that authorized the city to mail out a copy of it.
I'd like to defer a decision on scheduling town halls till Steve has the legal analysis. I'd love a memo on this, citing case law to show examples where giving notice of a meeting after an issue's on the ballot, merely giving notice, come to this meeting, and then members, elected officials providing information to the public about the ballot initiative is problematic. I'd like to really understand that.
And
Steve, I'm sensitive to the issue because when the city paid for a flyer during that tax campaign, that was really wrong. But that's different, I see, than just having a session where we talk and provide information to our residents, which I think is a critical function we have. So
and Steve, are we permitted to send out the report with the red line?
Oh, that's already been sent out.
That's been sent out to all residents
Yes.
by mail?
By mail?
No, by email.
I didn't get it, nor did my wife.
Sent it out very soon after it was adopted because Matt and the group asked that we send it, so we sent it.
Okay, so, but can we send it by mail, by snail mail?
Remember, that was before council had acted to put it on the ballot. But council has authorized and the city is required to send out a copy of the charter,
The report?
not the report, the charter.
the ballot and the chart.
The ballot language or
The charter, the document, the charter itself is required to be mailed out. I think it's 30 days ahead of the election.
And what will that be accompanied by, with?
Probably a statement saying that the state law requires this to be mailed out 30 days before the election, maybe 15 days.
Who's going to write that statement and will we get to see that?
But it'll be the administration. Either I will do it, I will likely do it.
Well, I'm still an advocate of having town halls, and directionally, I think Tony's got some ideas about having potentially 4, 2 in the middle of March and 2 in
Well,
early April,
I said-
potentially.
I said 3. It could be
So
4.
I'd like to just hold on that till we have the legal analysis from Steve, and I can really understand how much of an issue it presents.
Can we have that for the next council meeting, which is, what would it be, February 11th?
Yes.
Because if we're going to set these up,
That's a
we
good
need,
plan.
we need time ahead of time.
Yeah, but I think since we meet again early February, it seems to me that, and you're not the town hall you're contemplating
Month
is
later.
not till March. I
Yeah.
think there's plenty
No,
of
that's
time
fine. That's
for
fine.
him to do it.
That's
So
fine.
that I just want council to be comfortable with what it's doing.
Yeah,
It's the only reason I brought up any of those things, Councilwoman
100
Boltman.
I 100%
just want
100%
you
agree with you.
Not to be unaware.
And I'd like to better understand the timeline for the sidewalk, because my recollection is the same, that we voted to put it on issue and had meetings after.
I think we did.
And
Yeah,
so
let's
that
get
is,
that
that is,
timeline together
if-
as
if
well,
that-
because
But I
that,
think it was a different thing, though. I think it was a different
Still a vote.
dynamic of what that.
because it's a
ballot
non-binding
initiative
vote,
was.
Still
but
a
we're
vote.
still under, that would, under Steve's theory, be city recourses to quote, advocate for a position. And I don't know why we could do it for sidewalks and not do it for this. That just,
All right.
I need to have a reconciliation.
He's
I
gonna
do
try to
also. I think it
advise us.
really doesn't seem.
Sheila, can you get the minutes of the meetings before council adopted? Because I know I
Yeah.
attended meetings,
All right, well,
and we'll just figure it out.
All
we'll
right,
figure it out.
great. All right, thank you.
Okay.
But just to clarify, if PPCL held the town meetings and we just attended, that
Nothing
would,
wrong.
nothing
You can do
wrong.
anything, say anything you want.
No, I would argue we can say anything we want anyway.
No, but I mean, without any.
There's this First Amendment thing going on here, right?
Well, I'm answering her question. That is
That's okay.
absolutely fine.
Look, the First Amendment doesn't protect your right to have an unlawful meeting under Ohio public meetings law. So there are restrictions on council activities that don't violate the First Amendment. And the ballot issues are one of those things where there may be restrictions that you are curtailed in the method by which you exercise your First
I
Amendment.
look
all
forward
of
to
us
your
were-
memo explaining that.
But I get it, but all of us were able to attend the town halls for, like, there wasn't an issue with there being a quorum of us or anything with the sidewalk issue.
We'll take this up next,
So,
council.
okay.
Well, we definitely had a quorum at some of those
On now,
meetings.
Yes, 7 of us were all there.
absolutely.
There were at least
Okay.
6, 7 of us,
Okay.
5 of
So
us, 6 of us.
Steve will report back to us, I hope by next council meeting, certainly.
I didn't mean to bring up a hornet's nest, but there you go.
Since it is.
I think we need to sort it out.
We have, moving on to the committees then, Ms. Zatrock had a committee meeting last night. You want to report on that?
Sure. The Parks and Beautification Committee met last night at City Hall. We welcome Ms. Weltman to the committee and thank Ms. Godek for her service. We continue to work on some of the following topics. Community programming, which I will mention some really great ideas were brainstormed by the group. We talked about the Gates Mills Boulevard Linear Park and the exciting news that Pepper Pike may soon be receiving the grant from ODNR for Phase 2 and how the committee can help celebrate that project. Our resident member Rick has been hard at work researching benches. We got to see some material samples and had a robust discussion regarding usage and the design of benches. Yesterday, I received an email from MKSK. They've submitted the park plan proposal council discussed on November 20th of 2024. Each of you should have received a copy of that proposal. So I would like to have the discussion of the MKSK park plan proposal added to the agenda for our next council meeting. It'll give all of us the time to look over that document and come together to discuss. There were 2 other interesting points that came up last night during the meeting. One of our members asked about community feedback and how to ensure all voices are heard, not just the loudest voices in the room. I think it's a valid question and point. If 1 or if a small few continue to say something repeatedly and loudly, we need to evaluate what that actually means and listen to those who are also quietly expressing themselves or perhaps shying away because the loud have taken over. I think we should bring that up during our discussions next week and ask some questions about how MKSK has handled that issue in the past. The committee also asked about a budget, to which my answer was that we didn't have one. We're planning some community outreach that may require some small expenditures. So I would like to ask council to consider a modest budget for our committee to be able to do those, put on those events for our residents. And I will say that the next Parks and Beautification Committee meeting is scheduled for Monday, February 24th, 7 p.m. at City Hall. But I would like to circle back to that budget, and I would think it would be a motion perhaps made by council to provide for that.
Maybe next council you can put together line items and an amount and.
Yeah, I could kind of generalize. And when I say modest, like maybe I think $1,000 would be like huge. So I think it would be very small. I could put together an idea of that.
I'm not sure, but I think we have a budget already. There's a beautification fund, and it has revenue, or it has resources, and it has revenue, and why wouldn't we be able to spend that? I think we already have a budget.
I don't believe that that is pertaining to our committee. I believe that that's for another group to use, and it's not us.
Another group.
Joe, can you clarify on that point? What is the beautification fund for?
It's $1,000 is in there.
But does it have is there a brief attached to that that says this is for X, not Y? I know it's a very
We've
small.
spent it on mulch in the past. We spent it on flowers,
Okay.
but I mean, there's not a lot in that fund.
13,000,
No,
17,000,
let me see.
page 10.
17,000.
Yeah.
That should cover it.
That would.
We transfer in the $10,000. A lot of that money goes towards the park on the circle. Chagrin.
We do park maintenance. Davy Tree has to take down invasive
Okay.
vines and things,
Great
kill the
vines.
trees. Okay. Also pays for the.
But is there a definition of this is for, and would the work Emmys doing fall within that? I mean, I guess the question is, would it be a legitimate use of those funds for the work Emmys?
Well,
and the
yeah,
Parks Committee?
but Abby's gonna put together what they are. If she thinks $1,000 huge, we'll be able to absorb.
Yeah.
I was going to say.
Okay.
Just-
Okay, that's fine. Just
You know, I mean, if you're looking like when we were talking about for this charter, a mailing and stuff like that.
No.
Now you could be talking 5, 10, 15,000. That's a different story. If she thinks 1,000 is way more than enough, we could figure a way.
we were talking about some reimbursements perhaps.
Just looking at last year's results, we went from 13,800 to 17,900. So we didn't even spend the full 10,000. So it looks like there should be resources there.
Well, we got an outstanding PO that's not reflected in that report.
Okay.
For some early work for Davy that we had contracted.
Oh, how much is that?
I don't know off the top of my head.
I can still provide for that.
Yeah,
But the point may be moved if
that's
there's.
small. I mean,
Yeah, I didn't.
no money's chump change, but that truly is chump change.
Like I said, it would be a modest
Is
ask.
that a key financial term?
Yeah, that is. Happy financial term.
Okay, I appreciate the discussion. Thank you.
And Mr. Lemay, you had a finance.
Yes, we did. We had year-end financial reports, so it's great to see everything come together. And as I told Joe in the meeting, budget was spot on for the year. Revenue was up slightly over budget, 240,000. Expenditures were slightly below budget, about 280,000. And most of his marks were very close to budget. So as I told Joe at the meeting, great job forecasting and budgeting for the city. The one item of slight concern was income tax revenue hit a high last year in 2023, and it was off this year. That revenue is about 8.6 million last year, about 8.2 this year. So it's the first time it's come down in quite a while. So I've asked Joe, we're gonna do a little analysis on that, make sure we understand whether that's a one-off event or it's something systemic in that. Still, the city's overall cash surplus again increased this year. So we're in great shape financially and sufficient funds to fund sidewalks and the other projects we have in the budget. So again, compliments to Joe for a great forecasting year.
I had a couple questions.
Mhm.
Or,
Can we do that
Hmm?
now? Okay, go ahead.
well, they're about finances.
Okay.
I just wanted to point out that we had almost 1.4 million in interest income throughout the budget, which is really good. That's like free money. The question I had for Joe is the budget report on the 2024, is it the budget that was passed in December of 2023, or is it adjusted for the subsequent appropriation ordinances?
That's the budget that has changed throughout the year, correct?
So it's the one that's adjusted for the appropriation ordinances?
Yes.
Okay. And then there was one item on page 12, note proceeds that we didn't receive of 2.34 million. Remind me what that was for?
Shaker Phase 2A.
Shaker Phase 2, okay.
That whole project was gonna be done all in 24, and none of it was.
All right. And then on the listing of, there's no title on it, but this listing of invoices, there was a payment to the Division of Water in the tens of thousand range. I was wondering what that was for.
I had no idea, and like I've said in the
Edgewood?
past, if you have those types of questions, just give us a call and we'll be able to tell you exactly what it is.
Okay. Well, I have one more on that same thing.
Don, do
There's-
you know what that was?
It says Edgewood
Probably the
cost
Edgewood water mains.
reconciliation.
What is it?
It says Edgewood cost reconciliation.
The
Edgewood.
50,000.
We got money from Cleveland Water. for
Cleveland Water gave us money to do the Edgewood water line, and that was the proceeds that weren't expended that went back to them.
Oh, okay. So that's a reimbursement to,
Yeah,
oh, okay. No, I understand. Okay. And then there was a large payment, $426,000 to Fetchco as excavating, and it
Yeah.
was labeled as additional quantities, but I don't know what Fetchco did.
Fetchco did the Shaker project,
Which Shaker project?
the sewer line,
The sewer?
the storm line.
And the additional quantities were over and above the estimate?
There were some that were under, there were some that were over. That was just probably the line item that Don had on his,
Well, it was labeled as additional quantities, so,
and that was the description that Don had given. And there's probably more language because this is obviously truncated a lot of this stuff.
okay. Can you fill in?
Yeah, we
More on
spent, on the Fetchco contract, we spent some additional monies on doing some base repair on the roadway. So it was bigger than what we had in there in that original contract. But because of that base work that we did, we actually had a significant savings on the paving contract that followed up. We saved several $100,000 on that, but it's because some of that base work got done under the Fetchco project.
Okay, well, that's kind of what I
basically
wanted to know.
what happened, yeah.
It was just out there as additional quantities is not very informative. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lemay. Department heads, anything to report? Do they have a good party, chief?
They seem fine.
Mr. Redmond? No.
Real quick, the
Yes, sir.
Gates Mills Boulevard roadway paving is out to bid right now. So we advertise tomorrow and we'll have bids in a couple of weeks.
Okay, great.
And when are we thinking that would start? Just that
Well,
curiosity.
we'll wait for the snow
I
to
get
melt.
this question, yeah.
When we get the bids, we'll evaluate them. That is the project where we got support from the county of about
Mhm.
$800,000. So we got the plans approved by the county late last week, and so we have it out to bid now.
Thank you, Mr. Sheen. All right. I do want to, I don't have a lot tonight. I want to make council aware of some ongoing infrastructure discussions that we're having with the residents of one of our streets. Since the 1990s, certainly, there have been a number of waterline projects in the city, where some streets had not been watered ever. There was no Cleveland water pipes in these streets. Several of those were taken care of in the 90s. A street that was not addressed is a street called Pepper Ridge off of Somme. And Pepper Ridge is without water. And initially, it's fire services, as the chief can explain better than I, are challenged now. So, you know, it's a different situation than in the 1950s, when half a mile of hose, more than that, a third of a mile of hose would be laid out from a fire hydrant on the other side, on the east side of Somme Center Road, and dragged up the length of the road. The street has now houses at the end of cul-de-sacs that didn't exist before. Cutting to the short, the chief made me aware that he did not feel that this was an optimal fire safety situation. So I reached out to the residents of the street and arranged for a meeting with all the residents there. There are only about 11 or 12 households on the street. And we had a neighborhood meeting where I think was very well attended by everyone on the street, with the chief and Mr. Shee and myself. And we spent an evening speaking with these residents, and the residents then met afterwards. They were informed as to what the general cost of such a connection would be. Historically, it's always been the residents who afford a never before existing water line. That would be typically a developer improvement to a street that would then be dedicated to the city. So in all those 1990s instances where water did not exist, those residents, you know, pay for their water line. The city basically banks it, and they pay us an assessment over time. The residents of Pepper Ridge have preliminarily all indicated that they would like to proceed with that scenario at this time. So we're going to be sending out probably in the near future a ballot, a survey basically for the street to sign on to, yes or no. So it's more formal than everyone telling, you know, each other, yeah, let's do this. And we'll get back to council with it. Ultimately, we'd have to do what the necessity, what's it called?
It's a resolution.
Resolution. I couldn't think of the word resolution. Resolution and necessity, and, you know, they can get the project underway. It's going to make the city fire department able to respond, you know, better respond to anything that were to happen on the street. The residents, you know, have decided that, you know, they appreciate having been made aware of the situation, and they are going to apparently support this sort of project. So I just want to make you aware that that's coming down the road. Probably in the next month, you'll see some, depending on how fast we can generate, you know, the survey to them, get it back, and then we'll get it on a docket for you guys.
So they're all on well water now?
They're on well.
On well water. And then, given our deal with the city of Cleveland, this line will then be owned by the city of Cleveland, or they will pay for this line?
No, they'll own it, but they won't pay for it.
They only do replacements, I think, under that program.
We should look at that,
Are there any
that
grants?
contract. we
They do
have.
replacements. Yes, they do
They
replacements.
don't
Tony's
do new-
exactly right.
They
do
don't do new
replacements.
water lines. They just do replacements.
So how do they get title to this water line?
We give it to them.
We would dedicate it to them.
Yeah, the residents,
Is that how
the residents basically pay.
We haven't
for
put
it.
a new water line in.
Long
Yeah.
time.
Don, are there
Yeah,
any
that's why
grants
they-
available?
They will then take over the maintenance of that line. When we dedicate it to them,
Okay,
they take over the responsibility for the
got
line.
it.
But the residents basically
Pay for it. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay.
Do they ever do that in Hunting Valley? Do they?
All the time.
Yeah, all the time. So you're familiar with the process.
Any other
So-
streets like that, Pepper Pike? Is that the last one?
No, it's not the last one, but the others, the chief doesn't feel are as problematic so far. as
Hydrants
they go.
nearby? and-
There are hydrants at the end of the streets, things can happen. And we're continuing to evaluate if any other streets must, in all good sense, install the sign. Right now, the chief, you seem comfortable enough for now with these other streets, chief? Is that?
I mean, it would be ideal if they were all done. It would give the best protection, but this one is very problematic.
It's a different conversation we can have with
Yeah.
these residents.
It's a long street.
It's a really
New
long
houses
street.
at the end of it, which.
Right, right. It's a really long street and, I learned things that evening with the chief, and he was giving sort of the history of it, how back in the day, in the 50s or whenever, when this city had a volunteer fire department of 40 or 50 people, and it was a different situation to lay out a hose like that. Now we have four individuals on a shift, and it's just an entirely different dynamic to pretend that we could effectively get out. We'll get it out. It's not that we're abandoning the street in any way. We will, but on a timeline basis, it's much better that they have readily available fire hydrants up there.
It'll also help their insurance rates quite a bit.
Yeah, I hope so.
Do you think this is something we should not, I mean, this is the first priority, but put out to those other streets then as, at least as an option?
Yeah.
I mean. to-
I've reached out to at least one of them already to talk to them about.
'Cause they
Yes.
might,
Yeah, I think they get to choose.
they might want it.
Yeah, I agree. So, all right, I just want to make sure council had a heads up about that. So, other than that, council, you have any comments for this evening, or we'll turn to audience comments?
I have some.
Yes, sir.
Just want to give you an update. As you all know, we've been considering updating City Hall, and among the goals, improved access for those with disabilities, which we really do need to improve. Improve our audio video features for presentations and communicating with residents, not only in here so everybody can see what we're talking about, but also through streaming council and committee meetings. Given the ceremony that we had tonight, perhaps we'd like a little more flexibility and functioning in council chambers. Maybe more seating for topics that draw more people, more seating for families of some of the officers who are being sworn in. And maybe more seating for residents who want to see some presentations, like perhaps your park presentation that's coming up in person. We all know that Bioloski has been engaged in drawing up some designs, but right now we're kind of stalled on that. And as you all may recall, another architectural firm has contacted us and offered to see if they could come up with some additional ideas that might get things moving again. Well, I can tell you that I met with that architect because he wanted a tour of the building last week. And thanks to Jim Advent and also to Chief Dietz for helping take them through every inch of this whole complex. So they do have a couple of ideas already, and they would like to present them to council at the next meeting. And I just wanted to know how you all felt about that. I will tell you that don't expect what Bioloski has presented. These are just general concepts. There's a huge difference in what Bioloski has done and what these folks are thinking of. But I know a little bit about what he's proposing, and I think you'll find it interesting. So if everybody is in agreement, shall I invite them to the next meeting then?
I appreciate you working on this very important topic.
Thanks.
accessibility is of utmost importance, and upgrading some of the infrastructure within here would be wonderful. I am supportive of getting another opinion on that. So thank you, Scott, for that
Great.
work.
I'll also tell you that we really do need to upgrade our audio video equipment. That is really just kind of a pieced together thing. It's a webcam. And in fact, I've been informed that during this meeting, we've gone from HD, which is 16:9, to 4:3. So nobody is seeing me right now because I'm chopped off.
Oh.
But they can see me, can't
They
they?
can see you, so that's all.
Then we're good.
Well, got
We
it.
get squeezed in.
So one of my aims with the communications committee is to really examine how we can improve our electronic communications with residents to bring us up to the 20th century. And that's not a mistake. I meant 20th century. So that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Scott. Appreciate it. Anyone else?
I just want to thank Scott for following through with that. That's really an important project that we need to keep going, and appreciate your taking the lead on it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Audience comments, any?
Heidi Arnold, 30496 West Landerwood. Also part of the Civic League. So just to clarify, and I understand all of your points and find them valid. And your main point is it's on the ballot. Nobody can advocate after the fact that uses city money, correct?
Right, that's why
So in the past, what
Yeah.
Civic League does is we host different events in town halls that we put on. We buy the snacks. Brady puts it on for free, so there's really like no cost to it. But that's something we take on because the goal of the Civic League is to provide a conduit between the residents and the government. So
Right.
looking at their voices. So I would like to say that we are 100% on board, and I've wanted to do something for the charter committee. It'll involve talking with Tony. I know he had reached out to one of my colleagues about, I guess, what you may have anticipated wanting and how that may change now with what needs to happen on this end. But we are very, very much committed to doing this because it's important. Also, I am unaware of the timeline that we did for the sidewalks or whatnot in the past. I know there were the things at the high school, and then we held different things. I don't know if there was a specific breaker in there as to when it was put on the ballot, but I don't really think that that applies right now, as far as I'm concerned, because we're putting this on ourselves without any council money. And in saying that is, we are more than willing to do the advertising, the publication, getting the word out to the homes. And if the state or the city is responsible for getting the actual charter language out to the different residents, within a certain time, that would be great. You guys take on that expense, we will do all of the rest of it. So whatever which way we can with however, what you guys need to have, we are more than willing to do.
Should I-
just want
should I-
that to go.
Should I
forward.
stay in contact with Janet, or should I be talking to you?
You should talk to, probably.
Okay.
But that's definitely something we plan on. And then side note, I know people have been concerned about elections coming up and that them being held. And we weren't able to do candidates and issues night far enough advanced last year. So we are also going to be doing that for those of you who are up for re-election. But charter is what we want to get taken care of first, because it allows, people in the community need to be able to voice their opinions. But we're also doing the other side of things.
Thank you, Ms. Arnold.
Thanks.
Is anyone else? Mr. Rice?
Bryce, 2445 Edgewood Trace. So town hall is a great thing. Problem is the cat's already out of the bag. Town hall should have been held during the formation period. Residents' input is going to go in, but there's no way to change the ballot initiative. So having been on both sides of the town hall, I'll be at the town halls. Problem is, the questions will get answered, but there's no no way to change anything on the ballot initiative. Having sat on the other side of the town halls, I use them to take fears and maybe make changes to policy based on the concerns of residents. So our timing is problematic. I mean, you're not going to listen or like my suggestion, but my suggestion is pull this back, have town halls, and then get it to the November ballot so people really have their input and feel like they have a say in what's going on. A couple other comments since I wasn't here the last couple of weeks, and I appreciate the vote to put it forward, and I appreciate the two people that voted against mostly because I think it's too early. I've read all the comments, specifically Ms. Weltman. It's not fair to the commission to change anything. I don't understand that.
I don't think that's exactly what I said.
It's quoted, and you said a number of other things that we should accept everything the commission does. Your job is to legislate, debate, and work back and forth, change the document, and it appears the document didn't get changed at all from what the commission put forward because there was really no debate. The only person that really made a debate other than patting the commission on the back was Mr. LeMay when he talked about why he felt it was necessary to have a council president. I don't agree with him, but he actually put the points forward, called somebody, and they were valid points. I don't agree with them, but that was the only real debate on the meat of the document. So my inputs were ignored by the commission. My inputs were ignored by the council. So I'm not sure how to take that, because I am planning to run for council. But the only thing that changed was the implementation date from 1 January to 1 October, which means, am I eligible to run? I don't know. People say you can get grandfathered. I'm going to start the petition process next week. I'll get my petitions in before the May ballot. I'll get it in before October 1st. But let's see, the November election is after. So Mr. Byron is kind of looking at me on this grandfather going, I don't know, probably not, but so that's kind of why, you know, what I asked, and I get no real reason why we have a 1 or a 2 and a 4-year residency requirement for council and mayor when the state requirement is a year. And none of you addressed that to me, except Ms. Godick. We had a good discussion. She said, you know, I always thought, yeah, 2 years sounds about right, but in listening to you present, and then I sent my resume to everybody on the council, she's like, you know, but you probably have a pretty good background to sit on the council. I appreciate that. So, all of you, when my very first meeting, I introduced myself, you all said, thank you for your service. I mean, everybody did, right? Raise their hands. It's kind of hollow because your words don't match your actions. Like taking, are we veteran friendly in Pepper Pike or not? Doesn't appear to be. Veterans and active duty people move around a lot. And we can't finally get somewhere to settle. And we're told we're not eligible to serve after having served for 42 years. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
Don't normally respond, but I would say that that's a misunderstanding of my statement, but we can move on.
All right. Any other comments, please?
Hi, I'm Luann Graham, 31437 Shaker Boulevard. I'm going to read this because I write it better than I speak extemporaneously. I'm here to voice my support for the Charter Commission review and proposed changes. This first bit is secondhand as I read it in the Chagrin Valley Times. The article mentioned that a resident of Pepper Pike did a community survey poll about what residents would like to see added to Pepper Pike. Not surprisingly, no one mentioned in the responses that they wanted a charter review, as the answers were for more tangible items, as I doubt that people think about the charter as it doesn't come into play in their daily life. I guess I want to know, to whom was this survey sent? I didn't receive one. I don't know anybody else who received one. None of my neighbors received one. So I don't think it's a genuine poll that we could go by. It was written also that residents are uninformed of the review process. If the residents are uninformed, it's because they chose to be. As with the sidewalk issue, you can send out survey after survey. get survey burnout, and there's going to be a percentage of the population who don't care, as some of the residents are not interested in the community. There are those who wouldn't be able to give you the name of the mayor or one council member. That residents of Pepper Pike. The argument that if it's not broke, don't fix it, or we are not broken, as was quoted in the Chagrin Valley Times. Do we want to wait until we are broken to look at the charter? Everything around us evolves and changes. We are bombarded with computer, cell phone, automobile, heck, serial ads about new and improved. I can't believe that our charter doesn't need to be changed after 60 years. It's been 60 years. Pepper Pike has evolved, but our charter remains firmly in the last century. We recently celebrated our centennial. For over 100 years, we didn't have sidewalks. It wasn't broken, but why did we fix it? We were told that it was due to an influx of new, younger residents, and that Pepper Pike was changing, but I guess our charter doesn't need to change. Because according to some residents, we aren't broken. Let's move forward. Let's be proactive instead of reactive.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Leskovic?
Yes, I'm a little confused on the purpose of the town hall meeting. Originally, the Charter Commission was gonna have town hall meetings scheduled at the beginning of their process. I mean, that's clearly indicated in their early on minutes, and it made sense before you do this, or at some point before you finish the product of getting resident input. But that didn't happen. Now, so this review, this town hall is really after the fact, and what makes it in my mind even worse is the people who did the work and wrote the charter review aren't gonna be there to answer the questions. So what you're gonna have there is other people giving their interpretation and their reasons of why, which to me is advocacy. So I'm not sure if it's designed right now, the town hall meeting really serve any kind of meaningful purpose other than people who are trying to sell it or people who are against it.
Thank you, Mr. Leskovic. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Yes, William Thompson, 30500 Providence Road. I left my pen in the car, so I use my phone, sorry. I wasn't gonna comment on this, but I would take the fact that no one said anything about the charter review in a called an informal straw poll to be evidence of the fact that everybody was perfectly happy with it. I'll note in the Zatrox, I think, wise comments around, let's be cautious about listening to the vocal, I'm gonna paraphrase, let's be very cautious about listening to the vocal minority and effectively ignoring the silent majority, i.e. probably the vast majority of the city is running fine. I wouldn't respond if I thought everything was running fine. I wouldn't say don't touch it. I might say something if I had a problem with something, but if you look at the number of responses the commission got, a few dozen, 40, 50.
And take any input.
What about everybody else? Okay, so those are all the people that are very happy. So thank you, Ms. Atrock, for those comments, because I think you're right on point. Moving on, Ms. Waltman also used the phrase distinction without a difference, which is one of my favorite phrases. Thank you. Here's the difference that I hear in this chair between the town halls for sidewalks and what I'm hearing here. If I remember, in the town halls, I was kind of surprised that nobody from council was speaking. And that was my first, like, dipping my foot into the, Pepper Pike politics. In fact, I remember Ms. Wong got up and spoke. You had read a letter from a resident that was unable to be there. But other than that, that was the only council participation in that town hall. And Mr. LeMay is talking about letting us attend and give our thoughts on the pros and cons. I think that's pretty clear what the difference between those two things is. We're trying to set something up here where you want to come in, and for or against, I'm not advocating a position here, but be very, very cautious about setting something up where you can come in and speak for or against it, because that is not what you did for sidewalks. Sidewalks was pure residents getting up and speaking. Council listened politely. I think Mr. Sheehy might have even put up, I can't remember town halls if you had the slideshow, but there was no advocating going on. That was so. I did have a question too. At some point, I live on Providence, and like I think sewers are headed our way at some point. You don't have to address that now, but it comes up like once a week at home to see what's going on with sewers, huh? I don't know. So, okay.
I think
Well, you can ask.
that's more of a Don
Really,
Sheehy question.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Anything else?
I just have one thing to add, and as everyone's brought up the town halls
Is
for
it-
then and now, it's
Heidi?
just format.
Heidi, well, we can talk about that offline,
Perfect.
okay?
That's it.
Jean,
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
30496. So just, if you could just say again, or after the meeting, what is the purpose now of the town hall? Is it information seeking by the residents and having the questions answered by not opinion, but facts? If they have a question and you're there, and I ask a question, it wouldn't be your opinion if I'm asking an informational, for information. So, I don't know, I need to clarify myself to understand the conversation tonight.
Right. Thank you, Ms. Gascoigne. You had your hand up.
Gerard Bartasavage, 29600 Shaker Boulevard. I think what you're doing with this charter review, pushing this through, is very unethical. Very lack of transparency, and putting the town halls. It was always discussed when we came here. The town halls were going to be part of the process to listen to the residents' input. It doesn't make sense. Everyone, the residents here are saying the same thing. Why aren't you listening to the residents? You don't want to listen to the residents. Why? Many residents sent letters to the Charter Review Committee. We were asked to send letters to the Charter Review Committee. The 3 council members were on that committee. 3 council members were supplying information to the committee. They were a part of it. Residents sent their letters to the committee. It was mentioned in the meeting minutes that these letters were going to be addressed. I don't see where they were addressed. I don't understand why you're not wanting to listen to the residents, why you're not being transparent. And I believe what you're doing is very unethical and it's wrong. And I'm going to say, I've been coming here for 25 years. I'm reviewing all council members, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to say this, it's not, you're going to hurt your feelings probably, but this is the worst council this city has ever had. You all ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Jean Gascoigne again.
No,
saying that,
Jean,
yes.
Jean,
Well, no, wait.
no, Jean,
I
please.
understood, Mr. Mayor, at one time, a couple of years ago, our comments were to be comments and not questions, and so seems like there were some questions.
Okay.
But also, I find that very disrespectful to make such a statement. As an adult, no matter how many years you've been coming to meetings, or one has been coming to meetings, I think that comment was very disrespectful.
Okay, thank you. We are not, audience, we are not going to have back and forth between our audience members. So thank you very much for trying to respect that. Anything else? Then, yes.
Sharon Bartasavage, 29600 Shaker Boulevard. I just want to make a comment. There was a comment from the audience that the charter was, 60 years. Well, the Constitution has been around for 250 years. We do little changes that council could have done those changes. They have done changes in the past. That could have been, the language or added for legislation from the state. But have these radical changes is really changing the constitution of our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Not seeing any other audience. I think everyone has commented, in fact. We stand adjourned.
Hey, Tony, I have a 2:00 meeting tomorrow, and then I'm going to try to get up to meet you guys. Okay.